Daphne swallowed hard. You should sit down. No, Electra said, shaking her head. I'm not sitting. For weeks I've been sitting in fear. I've been sitting in confusion, sitting in denial. Just tell me. Daphne let out a sharp breath. Ivy, she's been lying to you. Electra shut her eyes. The words hurt her deeply, but she made herself stay strong. About what? Daphne thought for a moment. About Marcus. About the cash. About the business deal. About everything. The room looked like it was leaning. Electra grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. All of it. Daphne nodded, her voice trembling. She's been seeing Marcus behind your back. For months. She helped him ruin your business. She gave him secret information. She knew it would destroy you financially. The silence that followed was suffocating. Electra's breath caught in her throat. Why? She said in a whisper. Why would she do that? Daphne wiped tears from her eyes. Because she's always been in love with him. Even when you were together. Even when she smiled at you and pretended to support your relationship. A hollow laugh escaped Electra's lips. So every hug, every late-night conversation, every promise was a lie. I'm so sorry, Daphne said in a soft voice. I found proof. Messages. Bank transfers. Documents. I couldn't keep quiet any longer. Electra slowly nodded. Something inside her hardened, crystallizing into icy resolve. Call her, she said. Daphne looked startled. Now. Ivy walked through the door a few minutes later, her face light and unaware of the storm that was about to hit her. Hey, what's up? You both sounded weird on the phone. Electra turned toward her, eyes blazing. How long? Ivy blinked. How long what? How long have you been lying to me? Ivy glanced at Daphne, then back at Electra. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Electra stepped closer. How long have you been sleeping with Marcus? Ivy froze. The truth flickered across her face before she could hide it. You told her. Ivy whispered. Daphne lifted her chin. She had the right to know. Ivy turned to look at Electra, and her eyes filled with tears. Electra, I can explain. Explain what? Electra snapped. Tell me how my best friend stabbed me in the back. Explain how you destroyed my company. Could you please tell me how you stood next to me, held my hand, and smiled while you planned my downfall? I never meant to hurt you, Ivy said, crying. It just happened. We got back in touch and feelings came back and you decided I didn't matter, Electra said. You made the choice to end my life. Ivy shook her head desperately. That's not true. I love you. No. Electra's voice got very quiet. You love yourself. Ivy stepped forward and reached out. Please. Before Ivy could finish, Electra's hand swung through the air. The slap rang out in the room, sharp and final. Ivy staggered back, clutching her cheek, stunned. Don't touch me, Electra said coldly. Don't even breathe in my direction. Ivy's face was wet with tears. Electra. Electra whispered. Leave my life. The words were soft, but they carried the weight of absolute finality. Ivy looked at her with disbelief written all over her face. You don't mean that. I do, Electra said, pointing to the door. Take your lies. Take your betrayal. Get out of my life and take all the false memories we made. Daphne moved closer to Electra and put a hand on her shoulder to show she was there for her. Ivy's crying got louder. We've been friends since we were kids. You can't just get rid of that. You erased it the moment you chose to betray me, Electra replied. Ivy thought about it for a moment before slowly turning toward the door. Every step felt heavier than the one before it. At the threshold she paused, glancing back one final time. I never wanted this. Electra looked back at her, her eyes full of pain and rage. Me neither. The door shut behind Ivy, and the sound was like a gunshot. Electra stood still, shaking all over. Daphne wrapped her arms around her as she finally broke, sobs tearing free from deep within her chest. Electra cried for hours, grieving not only the death of her best friend, but also the life she thought she had. Every memory we had together now felt tainted. Every moment of trust now felt like a cruel joke. Days went by in a flash. Reporters were all over her. Investors wanted to know what was going on. Marcus vanished, leaving legal chaos in his wake. and Ivy, who had been her shadow, was gone. Yet through the devastation, something new began to emerge. Strength. Electra threw herself into rebuilding her business and getting back what had been taken from her. She refused to let betrayal define her future. Every night she couldn't sleep, and every day she was too tired made her more determined. Weeks later, one evening, Daphne found her alone on the balcony, looking at the lights of the city. "Are you okay?" Daphne asked softly. Electra nodded. "I will be. You still miss her, don't you?" Electra was unsure. "I miss the person I thought she was." Daphne squeezed her hand. "That's normal." Electra took a deep breath. "I've spent my life protecting everyone else. Now it's time I protect myself." And she did. Months later, Electra was in charge of an empire that was stronger and wiser. She still had the scars of betrayal, but they no longer had power over her. She had learned the hardest lesson of all, that the people you care about the most can sometimes be your worst enemies. And sometimes the most brave thing you can do is to say goodbye. The silence Ivy left behind was louder than any scream. Electra stayed still for a long time after the door slammed shut. The echo of that final sound reverberated inside her chest, pounding against her ribs like a trapped heartbeat. She hardly noticed when Daphne led her to the couch, or when the cool glass of water was pressed into her shaking hands. Her mind kept going over and over the fight, with every word tear and lie coming apart like a thread that had been pulled too hard. That night I couldn't sleep. She lay there, staring at the ceiling, with memories and reality fighting for her attention. Ivy was laughing next to her at their high school graduation. Ivy standing beside her at her wedding. Ivy holding her hand during labor, whispering encouragement. And now Ivy, the woman who had betrayed her trust so completely, was gone. Electra pressed her palm against her chest, as if she could physically hold her heart together. The pain wasn't very bad. It was empty. A huge emptiness carved deep inside her. The aftermath. The scandal exploded across the media within days. Betrayal was in the headlines. Business networks looked at every part of the financial sabotage. People only thought more about Marcus's disappearance. There were a lot of lawsuits. Board members called for emergency meetings. Investors said they would pull out. Electra refused to hide. She stood in front of cameras, composed yet visibly wounded, and delivered a statement that silenced the chaos. "I trusted the wrong people," she said calmly, "but I won't let betrayal tear down what I've built. My company will rise again. And I will too." The nation watched as a broken woman transformed into a force of resilience. But behind closed doors, the fight was very hard. It was necessary to find every document Ivy had changed. They had to find every fake transfer. Nights blurred into mornings. Sleep was replaced by coffee. Determination took the place of despair. Daphne remained by her side, becoming her anchor. "You don't have to be strong every second," Daphne whispered one night as Electra collapsed into a chair. "Yes, I do," Electra said in a hoarse voice. "Everything falls apart if I fall apart." Daphne got down on her knees next to her. "You're allowed to grieve." Electra shut her eyes and the tears finally fell. "I lost my sister." Ivy's fall. Ivy's world, on the other hand, was falling apart. Marcus had disappeared without a word, taking the last of the money with him. They took the luxury apartment. Credit cards frozen. Friends stayed away from each other. Doors once open now slammed shut. She moved into a small, dirty apartment on the outskirts of the city, far away from the life she used to share with Electra. Every mirror reminded her of what she had done. Every night, guilt ate away at her. She kept replaying the slap over and over in her head, feeling the shock, the heartbreak, and the finality of Electra's words. "Leave me alone." They followed her around. Ivy tried to call. No answer. She sent messages. No reply. She sent letters. They were returned unopened. Electra had deleted her. And that hurt more than any punishment. Ivy stood across the street from Electra's building one rainy night and watched the lights in the penthouse windows. For hours she remained there, soaked and shaking, unable to leave, unable to cross the street. Because once you cross a line like that, there is no way to go back. A shocking comeback. 3 months later, just as Electra was starting to feel stable again, the past came crashing back. She was attending a high-profile charity gala, radiant in a sleek midnight blue gown, commanding attention as she entered the grand ballroom. The whispers were always there like shadows. She survived betrayal. She rebuilt everything. She can't be stopped. And then, the room changed. A ripple of shock traveled through the crowd. Electra turned around slowly. Ivy was at the door. Not thick, pale, weak. She is not at all like the strong woman she used to be. Their eyes met across the busy room. For a brief moment, time stopped. Electra's chest tightened as anger and heartbreak came rushing back. Daphne whispered, "Do you want to go?" "No," Electra said firmly. "She doesn't have that power anymore." Ivy hesitated before stepping forward. Each movement felt like walking through fire. The crowd parted, sensing the intensity. When Ivy stood before her, her voice barely held steady. "Electra, I didn't know if you'd talk to me." "You were right," Electra said in a calm voice. "I won't." She turned to walk away. "Please," Ivy said softly. "Just 1 minute." Electra stopped for a moment, then slowly turned to face her. "Do it fast." "I lost everything," Ivy said, her voice breaking. "Marcus used me. He planned everything. I was just a fool who thought love would save me." Electra laughed bitterly. "Welcome to the consequences." "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," Ivy continued. "But I want you to know that I never stopped loving you." Electra snapped. "That's the meanest thing you could say. Because if you loved me, you wouldn't have hurt me." Ivy bowed her head and tears fell freely. "I hate myself every day." "Good," Electra replied coldly. "Leave me alone now." Ivy stood still while Electra walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floors like gunshots. The crowd let out a breath. But the wounds opened up again inside Electra. Marcus returns. Just when the chaos seemed to settle, the greatest shock arrived. Marcus came back. And he wasn't the only one. He walked into a press conference holding hands with a powerful business rival, and announced a new business that would directly compete with Electra's empire. The betrayal got worse. Electra watched the broadcast in stunned silence. Daphne whispered, "He's declaring war." Electra's eyes darkened. "Then he'll get war." She got her legal team together. She looked for proof. She prepared for battle. But Marcus had a very strong card. He had secrets. Secrets that could destroy everything. Ivy's redemption. When Ivy heard that Marcus was back, she freaked out. She knew what he was capable of. And she knew something no one else did. Documents that are hidden. Files that are encrypted. Financial trails buried deep within international accounts. Proof. Proof. For days she wrestled with her conscience. She then made up her mind. Late one night, Ivy appeared at Daphne's door shaking. "I have something Electra needs," she whispered. "Something that can kill Marcus." Daphne thought about it for a moment before nodding. "I'll take it to her." Electra's face showed disbelief when she saw the files. "This could be the end for him," she said in a low voice. Daphne said softly, "Ivy doesn't want anything in return. Just so you know, she's sorry." Electra closed her eyes, pain washing over her again. "Sorry doesn't fix betrayal." "No," Daphne agreed. "But it can stop more damage from happening." Electra looked over the papers very carefully. Then she made her move. The Last Judgment. There were a lot of people in the courtroom. There were cameras all over the hallways. Marcus sat comfortably, as smug as ever, until the proof was shown. Accounts were made public. Deals found. Bribes were found out. His confidence fell apart with each new piece of information. Marcus was no longer a powerful businessman when the verdict was read. He was a bad guy. He kept his eyes on Electra's as the officers led him away in handcuffs. He said, "This isn't over." Electra stood up straight. "It's for you." The courtroom went crazy. Finally, justice had come. And weeks later, Electra stood at the edge of the ocean and watched the waves crash against the sharp rocks. The wind whipped through her hair, carrying the scent of salt and freedom. Daphne stood next to her. "Are you sorry you cut Ivy out?" Daphne asked in a soft voice. Electra thought about the question very carefully. "No. But I forgive her." "Will you ever let her back in?" Electra shook her head. "Some doors stay closed after they are closed. Not because they hate you, but because I respect myself." She took a deep breath and peace finally settled in her bones. She had lost love. She had lost trust. But she had gained herself. And that was it. The ocean breeze carried the illusion of peace, but inside Electra, the storm still raged. Forgiveness did not make things better. Closure didn't help. The scars of betrayal had only gotten worse, settling into places she was afraid would never heal completely. She came back to the city different, tougher, sharper, and more careful. The woman who used to trust too easily was no longer there. In her place stood someone cautious, calculating, and fiercely protective of her heart. And fate was far from finished with her. The new guy. His name was Julian Cross. A brilliant corporate strategist. A billionaire with a shadowed past. People in boardrooms and financial circles talk about him and are afraid of him. He showed up out of the blue and bought a huge stake in Electra's company through a network of shell companies before finally showing himself. There was a lot of tension in their first meeting. "You're playing a dangerous game," Electra said coolly, eyes fixed on him across the conference table. Julian smiled a little. "So are you." Something in his gaze unsettled her. Not arrogance, not ambition, but understanding. He looked at her. Not the empire. Not the headlines. Her. And that scared her. Over weeks, their professional battles became intellectual duels. Their meetings took longer. Their talks got deeper. Electra felt her walls start to crack slowly, even though she didn't want to. Julian finally told the truth one late night when the rain was pounding on the windows. He said softly, "You're scared to feel anything." Electra stiffened. "You don't know me." "I know pain," he said. "And I know it." Silence swallowed the room. And in that quiet, something bad started to happen. Ivy's secret. Across town, Ivy lived in near isolation, consumed by regret. But she had something that no one else knew about. A secret that would break every weak barrier. She was going to have a baby. Marcus's kid. The truth broke her heart. She had sworn never to let Marcus back into her life. But now his blood was in her veins, tying her to him forever. She whispered apologies to the baby who wasn't born yet late at night, and her tears soaked her pillow. "I'll keep you safe," she promised. "Whatever it takes." Marcus, on the other hand, had other ideas. The threat of prison. From behind bars, Marcus orchestrated chaos. He kept an eye on Electra's every move through secret networks. He discovered Ivy's pregnancy, and he smiled. He would tear down Electra's world piece by piece if he couldn't kill her directly. First Ivy, then her unborn baby, then Electra. The first attack. One evening, Ivy returned home to find her apartment ransacked. Furniture turned over, windows shattered, and carved into the wall. "You can't get away from me." She collapsed, shaking violently, clutching her stomach. She felt a fear like nothing she had ever felt before. At that point she knew Marcus knew. And he was coming.